Okay, morning everybody. This clock doesn't work, I have no clock. What is it now, 10 to 11, yeah? Okay, today's Shavas B'Tammuz, it's Thursday, Yom Chamishi, Shavas B'Tammuz. And obviously, Medav Der Monen, Shavas B'Tammuz. It's one of the 4 fasts that we have that go in a sequence. Yeah? It's called Tzem HaChamishi, Tzem HaRavi, Tzem HaAsiri, Tzem HaAsiri, Tzem HaRavi, Tzem HaChamishi, Tzem HaAsiri. Tzem HaShvi. There's the fast of the 10th month, that's Asar B'Tevis, that's the first fast. And I had an interesting revelation this morning. I don't know if it's true. Asara B'Tevis we fast because that was when by the first Beis HaMikdash they made the matzah. By the first Beis HaMikdash the siege was laid, the Asara B'Tevis. When was the siege laid by the second Beis HaMikdash? When was the matzah laid by the second Beis HaMikdash? We don't know. We don't know when. The Gemara says that there was a siege by Bayis Sheni as well by the Romans. But we fast on Asara B'Tevis, which is consistent with when the siege was laid by the first Beis HaMikdash. Shivas B'Tammuz, you fast because the walls of the city were broken into. The Mishnah says that a bunch of things happened Shivas B'Tammuz. The luchas were broken Shivas B'Tammuz. And 5 things happened Shivas B'Tammuz. But in terms of the Churban, Shivas B'Tammuz is Hufka Ha'ir. But here it's backwards. By the first Beis HaMikdash, the walls were breached on Tes Tammuz. And we fast Shivas B'Tammuz because that's how it was by the second Beis HaMikdash. So when it comes to the siege, we do like the first Churban. When it comes to breaking the walls, we do like the second Churban. Tisha B'Av was by both. Tisha B'Av, the Nechra B'Habayis, Barishenu, Bashniya. On Tisha B'Av, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, both the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. And then, of course, the 4th fast is Tzom Gedalia, when Gedalia was murdered. And the truth is, the same stories repeat themselves twice in different forms. The story of Gedaliah's murder has to do with an attitude set by the Navi, by Yirmiyah, of appeasement. You know, we were raised by the Rebbe, that a Jew stands with his head up and he doesn't bend his head, and he has Stolz and Yankiv. But historically, there were Gedali Yisrael who took a different approach, not because they disagreed with the Rebbe, because they knew Lamailat was a different time. In the time of the Churban, the Eibishter was really not happy with Klal Yisrael. So the Navi understood, or the Navi was told, that now you have to appease the Goy, you have to bend your head. And that's why Yirmiyah said, don't fight with Bavel, with Nebuchadnezzar, go along with his conditions. And Gedalia ben Achikam was an official agent of the government of Bavel to allow Yidden to remain in Eretz Yisrael. And then there were radicals, hot-blooded Jews, who said, we're going to make friends with Bavel? Let's go to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the nemesis. Egypt was the antagonist of Bavel. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Gedaliah said, no, the Navi said. Anyway, they killed Gedalia. They ran to Mitzrayim. And then Mitzrayim was conquered by Bavel. And that was the end of that. And by Bayis Sheni, you have a very similar story. That Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to appease the Romans. And the Gemara says that there was enough stores in Yerushalayim to survive 22 years under siege. And Yidden destroyed the stores. Because they definitely wanted to fight with the Romans. And this was an intra-Jewish conflict. It was not an inter-Jewish conflict. It was intra, zwischen Yidden, zwischen sich. And just like by Bayis Rishon, they killed Gedalia, and we know what happened next. By Yesheni, they destroyed the stores. The Yidden had no choice. They had to fight with the Romans, and the Romans killed them all and destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. But there's another aspect, which also happened both by Bayis Rishon and by Yesheni. As long as Yidden lived in Eretz Yisrael, the Ruach HaKodesh from the first Beis HaMikdash stayed. When Yidden left, the Ruach HaKodesh went away, and when they came back with the second Beis HaMikdash, it didn't come back. And the same is true by Yesheni. The Gemara says, the Rebbe brings it in the Sichas a lot. A few generations after Churban Bayis Sheni, there was still the oil of the second Beis HaMikdash, and then that subsided. there's a period of history that we know for a fact that there were 0 Jews in Eretz Yisrael. The early Christians, they were called Aryan Christians, did not allow Yidden to live in Eretz Yisrael. And the consequence of that departure was the bittul of the smicha. They used to have an ancient smicha which was very powerful, which was musmach ish mi pi ish ad Moshe Rabbeinu. It was a smicha went back to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that smicha was interrupted as a result of this. So Tzom Gedalia fasts is a fast because we didn't follow the leader who said to appease, and the Gezeda became even worse than it was, and there was a ruchnius price for it. The Ruach HaKodesh left, the Jewish people left Eretz Yisrael, the smicha was abolished, and so forth. So every year we fast these 4 fasts: Tzom HaAsiri, Tzom HaRavi, Tzom HaChamishi, and Tzom HaShvi. That's the order of history. Asara B'Teves, and Shabbat B'Tammuz, and Tisha B'Yov, and Tzom Gedalia. And of course the Rebbe always brings the Rambam that these fast days are not just fast days, but they're tshuva. And not only are they tshuva, but the Rebbe brings very strong that the Yemei Rotzen. Fast days are Yemei Rotzen. They're considered desirable days. Which is why when Mashiach comes, it's not only that the fasts are abolished, but the fasts become Yomim Tevim. I had a class this morning online. So I said that there's 3 kinds of Yomim Tevim. The Yomim Tevim that we have now that are going to stop when Mashiach comes, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. The Yom Tov we have now that are going to continue even when Mashiach comes, Chanukah and Purim. And the Yom Tov that are first going to begin after Mashiach comes, Asara B'Teves and Shabbat B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Yov and Tzom Gedalia. And of course the Chassidus says that this is the deepest ahava between Yidden and the Eibush that is revealed on these occasions. And loss of Love, it will be Tov HaNira VaNigla. It will be revealed overt good, and we'll have what to celebrate. Anyway, today we also finish Rambam. It's 39 cycles of those who learn Perek Halayim. It's 36 years, 39 cycles. 36 years, 39 cycles. I was thinking out loud, that maybe I shouldn't think out loud. Yeah, Muslims keep a calendar like us. They keep a lunar calendar, but they don't have a leap year. So every 36 solar years is something like 39 lunar years. Anyway, in the Rambam, we lose about 11 days a year, as they chaptas. So you have 36 years and 39 cycles. This is just approximate. And those who learn Perek Halayim completed the Rambam 13 times. It's a lot. It's an awful lot. If a person learned the Rambam 39 times, or even if a person learned the Rambam 13 times, and he paid a little attention, a little attention to what he was learning, he has a rich yediyah of Kol HaTeira Kula, which is presented in such a concise and clear way, and also in a way that's so beautiful, that's so human. I heard from Yossi Jacobson, the Rebbe told his father, Simon, in a Yechidus, he says, I'm a cooked in Sefer HaRambam Zet Min Tereren. When you look at the Mishnah Torah Rambam, you see tears. Wie kum Tereren in a Sefer von Halacha weiß ich nicht. How the tears end up in a book of Jewish law, I don't know, but that's the fact. The Rambam, as technical, legal law is the most boring part of law, of halacha. The most technical areas of Torah, when the Rambam writes them, are organic. They're living, and they have mafila tereren. It's a very, very... Rambam was an incredibly special man, and wrote an incredibly special sefer, and the Rebbe gave us this chus, that we should finish Rambam, learn Rambam, finish Rambam, and of course, the Rebbe wanted that it should be kakot megalodol, it should be everybody the same. Men, women, and children. So he made 3 different maslulim. You could learn Shloisha Parakim Layim, which will allow you to finish the Rambam in a little bit less than a year. You could learn Perek Echad Layim, which will finish the Rambam in a little bit less than 3 years. And you can learn Sefer HaMitzvahs, which follows the maslul, it follows the cycle of Shloisha Parakim Layim. That'll learn with learning the Sefer Mishnah Torah. You have also the Sefer HaMitzvahs Layim. Sefer HaMitzvahs Layim, the Rambam wrote much earlier, when he was much younger. And he wrote it in Arabic, and we have only translations from Arabic into Hebrew, but nevertheless it's a Rambam. And the Rebbe gave us this chus that we should learn a Rambam. And the Beklolos too in Yonam, the Rebbe spoke. When the Rebbe made the Takon of Limud Rambam, he gave a number of reasons why he made it. Of course, he mentioned the idea of Achdus Yisrael, that all the Jewish people should be unified in one Limud. But in addition to that, the Rebbe also said this is the only sefer that includes all the mitzvahs of the Torah. If you learn the whole Gemara Bavli, And the whole Gemara Yerushalmi, you don't yet have all the mitzvahs of the Torah. To have all the mitzvahs of the Torah, because there's a lot of mitzvahs which are not in Shas. They're in the Mechilta, or they're in the Safra, or they're in the She'iltis, other Svarim of Halacha, including other Midrashim. The only sefer that a person could learn, which was Mikbot's Torah Shabal Peh Kula, the entire Torah Shabal Peh, is the sefer Bishul Torah L'Aram. In addition, the Rebbe said that it says in Hilchos Sfarim that Neshamas come in Gilgul. Neshamas come in Gilgul, Pa'am Acha Pa'am. Because this Shlichus that a Neshama has to complete. And if it doesn't do it in one Gilgul, it has to come in a second Gilgul to complete it. And one of the things that a Neshama needs to do to complete the Shlichus is to learn Kol HaTeira Kula B'Pardes. To complete the entire Torah on all four levels, Pshat, Remes, Drush, Sod. Says the Rebbe, we're halten ot by Mashiach, and we're holding almost by Mashiach. So we have to chapa to complete what needs to be completed before Mashiach comes. One of the most direct solutions for somebody whose neshama may not have completed Kol HaTeira Kula B'Pardes is to learn Kol Halachas HaTeira. Because the Halachas HaTeira are the crown of Torah, and the way I understand from the Rebbe's words. So B'Meila it includes all the Madregas of Torah. I don't think the Rebbe said that explicitly, but this is how I understood it. Implicitly, when you learn the halachas of Kol HaTeira Kula, so you're completing the whole, whatever you're missing in Torah from an earlier Gilgul or from a variety of earlier Gilgulim, you're able to be mashlim by learning Sefer Mishnah Torah Lo Harambam. So the Rebbe gave these various reasons why he made the takana. As Chassidim, I'm going to say two things. As Chassidim, I'm going to say two things about Limud Rambam. Number one, it's an infinite kashas, right? Every Yid needs to be connected to the Rebbe, to the Tzaddik, to the Nasi Ador. I'll tell you a Maisa, tell Nech a Maisa. And there's 100 stories like this. The Gem gives out videos every week. Pardon me. And in the videos, they have my encounter. They made now a change. They made, for the Rebbe 70 years, they made a shinui, and they're producing a different style. Same Indian, but of a different style. Every week they have a theme. Anyway, so one of the interviews that Jem did was by a Yid who lives in Florida. He's Mestama beyond Ben Tishim Shana, way beyond Ben Tishim Shana Mestama. His name is Harav Weberman. He went to Florida before Rabbi Korf. The Rebbe trusted him, Pasha. The Toys God with Yiddish Kinder in a Midbar Shmoma. Rabbi Weberman. And Rabbi Weberman tells a story in a film. That he did for Jem. That his wife was pregnant. They had a lot of children. His wife was pregnant and she had gone to a doctor. The doctor told her that the child was breached. The child was in the wrong position, which is very, very, very dangerous. I'm not a woman and I don't understand this, but I understand that it's very, very dangerous. Anyway, they were coming to the Rebbe anyway. Geltam ze nish gehat. He doesn't say it, but it's kind of obvious. Geltam ze nish gehat. So how do you get from Florida to New York? You're talking probably the early 60s. So there was a system where you could drive somebody's car, someone who lives in Florida. Once the car in New York, they'll give you the car, you'll drive it for them, they'll give you gas and hotels and a few dollars. So it's a win-win for people that don't have a lot of money. So they drove the car from Florida to New York. They did not know how they were going to go back. Anyway, in his words, we were sitting with the Rebbe, that's how he expressed himself. We were sitting with the Rebbe, we were sitting with the Rebbe, and I told the Rebbe, they told the Rebbe that the pregnancy is difficult because his wife is breached. So the Rebbe asks, how are you going back? So they told him that they're probably going to rent a car from Shmuel Isaac. Shmuel Isaac had a car rental, they were going to rent a car from Shmuel Isaac. I guess they would deposit it in Florida, I don't know how that would work. And the Rebbe took out a siddur in Netanya, and he gave it to him. And he said to him, if on the way back you manage to stop someplace and you'll meet a Yidden for whom this is appropriate, you'll give it to them. And they rented a car for Shmuel Isaac, and the car was a lemon, fartik. So the car had Nishgarbe. So they decided to go by Greyhound bus. It's a 24-hour trip, I believe. Florida's far away, it's very far. It's half the distance to California or more. Anyway, they stopped in a few places. I think one of them was Chattanooga, Tennessee. They got off the bus, and he went and he found the Rov, and he gave him the Tanya. And then the Ma'aseh with the Siddur was also a funny story. They met a Yid whose father was a mispalel in Rabbi Weberman's shul in South Florida, who lived someplace in the South, and he gave him the Siddur. Anyway, as they're sitting on the bus, she feels that her stomach is... Things are happening in her rechem. They got to Florida, she went to the doctor, and the baby is perfectly positioned. That's the story. I'll tell the noch a Ma'aseh. Yeah, I heard this story from Rabbi Shabsai Halperin Zol Gesund Sein himself. Rabbi Shabsai had the head shliach to Brazil. Him and his wife, she was a tzadekis. She was mamish. She was Mrs. Halperin was a kazen. When she was a girl, he told me this, when she was a girl, the Rebbe used to write to her or about her, shetlita, before bas mitzvah. Not shetichye, shetlita. Sie gewinnen a spezielle fruit. She was a Bal Madregech, man, you know? Anyway, so they moved to Brazil and Shlichus. They had a very, very hard time. Mi bayis or mi chutz, mi ponim or mi ocher, mi mailo, mi mata, you name it, they had tzarech. And on top of everything else, she couldn't get pregnant. And the doctors told her she'll never have children. A kid said, he scrounged together pennies, and he sent her to the Rebbe. She went alone to the Rebbe. She went into Yechidus, and she told the Rebbe that the doctors are saying. So the Rebbe asked her some questions. I don't know specifically what the questions were, but the Rebbe said to her, Ki'ilu, not connected to her bakosha, that while you're here already, maybe you should go speak about Taras HaMishpacha. And the Rebbe told her 4 different cities that she should visit, that she'd go and speak in Taras HaMishpacha. So she did it. She organized it. She went to 4 different cities. She got women together, and she spoke about Taras HaMishpacha. So Rabbi Halperin says to me, and we have 4 children, and that's it. that's how he finished it. And that's it. He's a great storyteller. And the says dazeh. Ich meine, the says. Me versteht das, you don't. The word is azay. One of the best ways to get a bracha from the Rebbe is to have a connection to the Rebbe. And the easiest way to have a connection to the Rebbe is to do one of the things that the Rebbe says to do. It's simple as long as I'm Miftsayim, I'm learning Chitas, I'm learning Rambam, I'm learning in Yonim Mashiach Ugula, being Mefarsim Besuras Agil. There's 1,000 Miftsayim. 1,000 is a guzma, yeah, but it's a guzma Sheberech. There's 100 Miftsayim from the Rebbe. Everything we do based on Hera from the Rebbe is another medium of connection between ourselves and the Rebbe, which brings to us Begilui, Bebechinas Ponim, all the brachas. So that's, to me, that's what the Rambam is. Rambam is an opportunity to do something which allows us to become connected to the Rebbe. I heard from a younger man, he's older than me, who told me that when he was in yeshiva, the Rebbe made the takon of Rambam, so he went to his mashpia. His mashpia was Rabbi Paltiel. And he asked Rabbi Paltiel which cycle of Rambam he should learn. So Rabbi Mendel told him, Alle drei, you should do all 3. So he said to the Rebbe, to Rabbi Mendel, the Rebbe didn't make such an option. So Rabbi Mendel said to him, Drei Wegen, wie man kann sich verbinden mit dem Rebbe. That was his answer. 3 ways you can connect to the Rebbe. That's it. 3 ways you could connect to the Rebbe. That was it. And then, of course, the second thing. And the second thing is that the Rambam is a Moed in the Sefer. The Rambam is an incredible book. Learning Rambam. You're supposed, B'chlal Torah, you're supposed to learn in a way that you enjoy. Learning Torah with Kabbalah Seil is a stirim and obey. Mitzvahs, you do with a Kabbalah Seil. Torah, you have to do with Avon of Asaga. Torah, you have to learn it and understand it and enjoy it. V'harayeh, what is the reason you don't learn Torah on Tisha B'Av? Because you're never going to get too much pleasure. Now you ask the average yeshiva bacher about not learning Torah Tisha B'Av. Is he depressed? Is he saddened? Is he deprived by the fact that he can't learn Torah today? Gib atrach. Gib atrach. So what's the word? The word is that we don't learn Torah correctly. The way a person is supposed to learn Torah, Torah is supposed to give him joy. Joy ad kedei kach. That if he's missing this joy, he feels the lack. He feels empfelt epis. And he's missing something. Because he doesn't have the joy of limud Torah. If a person learns Rambam and spends the time, sometimes Rambam is very hard. But not always. Sometimes you can learn a Perek Rambam and it's incredibly difficult. But at least 50% of the time or more, it's not so hard. If you learn it and you have English translations, you have every kind of support that a person could want to limit the Rambam. I mean, since the Rebbe made the Kon of Rambam, so many new Svarim have come out on the Rambam, not necessarily from Chabad, but the Rambam has become a book not just for great scholars and academics and people who was vernehmen with the Schwarze Pintalach. The Rambam has become a sefer for the lay person and for the lay man and for the lay woman and for the lay child, and there are so many Svarim that whether they are officially for Lubavitch or not officially for Lubavitch, my children have a Rambam that they call, I don't want to say what they call it with a disparaging name, but they learn it every day. They call it the bad Rambam, but they're all learning out of the bad Rambam. Why? Because it's very, very good. No, if it's the bad Rambam, how is it very good? Bachrim are radicals, they're fanatics. They found one thing that the guy once said that they didn't like. The guy says, treif, but not so treif that they're not going to use it. My sons, they have a Rambam. The official name of this Rambam is Kach V'Kach, but they learn it because it's a good sefer. Today there's a lot of Sfarim on Rambam. If a person learns Rambam and allows himself or herself to actually understand it, it's unbelievably uplifting. It's hiptuf. And you should know that it says in Heilige Sfarim that Limud Rambam is a school for Yiras Shamayim. As they state in Sfarim, learning Rambam is a school for Yiras Shamayim. Anyway, so let's make a siyum on Rambam. Today is the end of Rambam, and we're learning Rambam. And of course, the Rebbe says that the Rambam rewrote the Torah, right? What's the order? If you write a book on Torah, you have to have a Seder, an order. What's the Seder going to be? So, of course, the first order of Torah is going to be the Tanakh, Torah Nevi'im Uksub. The second order of Torah is going to be the Mishnah and the Gemara, Zroyim, Moyed, Noshim, Nezikim, Kochim, Talis. The third Seder of Torah is Rambam. The Rambam created a new Seder of Torah, and all the Shulchan Aruch that we have, the Shulchan Aruch that we have only have 4 sections. But they're based on the Rambam's model. The Rambam has 14 Svarim. The Svarim of Halacha that are written by the Torah and all those who followed him, which are Shulchan Aruchs of Golos. The reason the Rambam has 14 Svarim and the Torah has only 4, because the Torah did not write any halachas which are not negei b'zman hazeh. Karbonis and Tumentare, many of them. All halachas which are only negei in Zman Habayit, and of course many halachas of Zroyim, the Torah did not include. But the order is very similar, not identical to, but very similar. It's based on the Seder that the Rambam made for Torah, the Seder of Kedima, the Icher and Halacha. And the Rambam, of course, put incredible thought in how to organize the Sefer. The Rambam has 14 Svarim. You have Mada and Ava and Zmanim and Nashim, Kedusha, and Aflo and Zroyim. And then when you have Aveda, Karbonis, Tares, Nezikim, Kinyin, Kochim, Talis. I think I said all 14, and I think I said them in order, but I'm not entirely sure. The Rambam thought 1,000 times before he figured out what to put first and what he put second. And what the Rambam says is, the Rebbe says is that the learning Rambam from the beginning to the end is the journey of life, or the journey of history. That the person starts from the beginning. Yeseda is Vamuda Chochmas Leida Sheyesha Motzerisha Vumamtzi Kol Nimtzu. The Rambam begins at the foundation of all foundations. And the pillar of all wisdom is to know that yes, Sham, there is Sham, that's an Arabic form. There is there a first cause. He gives existence to all existences. Everything that is, the heaven and the earth, and what exists inside of them, they don't have their mitzias, ella meyamites, he must say, from the truth of the Eibishter's mitzias. That's how the Rambam begins. And the Rebbe explains. The Rambam starts off a Sefer Halachos talking about Hashem, Yediyas Hashem. And he divides Yediyas Hashem into 2 categories. The higher level is called Maaseh Merkava, the secret of the Eibishter's chariot. The lower level is called Maaseh Bereishis, the secrets of creation. And the Rambam says, you have the first thing a person learns, just like the first thing a child learns, is Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz. Even though creation is such an impossible thing to understand, when you teach a little kind a chumash, you start with Bereishis. When a Yid starts learning Torah, he starts learning Maaseh Merkava, Maaseh Bereishis. He starts learning about Hashem. But these are very deep things, and they're very hard to understand. In the Lashon HaShas, they're called Davar Gadol, a great thing. Halacha, the regular Shulchan Aruch, is called Davar Kotan. Maaseh Merkava, Maaseh Bereishis is called Davar Gadol. It's much, much higher, much more, much deeper, much edeler. So the Rambam says you have to start with Yediyas Hashem. But you only start with Tipa Min Hayam Ukemar Medli. You start with learning about the Eibishter, but you learn a drop in an ocean or a drop in a bucket. You learn very little of it. You have to start with Yediyas Hashem. You have to. But you're betchilas limudei. You're first beginning to become a person. So you start with it, but you learn only a little bit of it. And the hope is that as you live life and you learn all the other mitzvahs in the Torah, Hilchas Deis, and Hilchas Talmud Torah, and Hilchas Avodah Zarah, and Hilchas Tshuva, and then of course Hilchas Krishma, and then Hilchas Tefillah, and all the halachas of the whole Torah, you will not only learn how to do the mitzvahs at Torah, but you will learn how to expand your inyan of Yediyas Hashem, of knowing the Eibishter. I just want to mention, very importantly, what the Rambam writes, twice at least, that the mitzvah of Yediyas Hashem is also connected to the mitzvahs of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. The Rambam writes befedish, what says in Tanya Chassidus Chabad, Keitzad Yovel Avas Eliyarosei L'Chashei Yizbeinin. It's no way for a person. This is the beginning of chapter 2 in Hilchas Aseh Di'atera. There's a mitzvah to say of Ahavtas Hashem Elokecha. There's a mitzvah to say of Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. You have to fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rambam writes there is no way a person can have love of God or fear of God if he doesn't learn about God and understand God and then contemplate Him. Kate said, how can somebody come to love Hashem and fear Hashem? He has to think about the Eibush. And then Hilchas Tshuva, the Rambam repeats it a second time, then the Sefer Hamada. The last halacha, Sefer Hamada says, you have to have Yediyas Hashem. Because if you don't have Yediyas Hashem, you cannot have Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And then you travel through the whole Sefer Rambam from the beginning to the end. Then he goes with the Seder. The halachas of every day, the halachas of Shabbos v'Yom Tov, the halachas of marriage, the halachas of Yiseh v'Heter, and all the other halachas till you get to Hilchas Malachim Melchamis and Melach HaMashiach. Right? You know that in our Rambams, Hilchas, the laws of kings, are called Hilchas Malach, the laws of kings. But there are Tfusim, there are Kisvayad, which are considered more reliable, that the name of the last Sefer Halach of Rambam is Hilchas Malachim U'Malchamis, the laws of kings and their wars, U'Melach HaMashiach. Not just Hilchas Malachim U'Malchamis, U'Malchamis, Hilchas Malachim U'Malchamis, the laws of kings and war, and also the halachas of Melech HaMashiach. So the last Perakim of Rambam, that those who are learning Shlosh Brachim L'Yayim are learning it today, and those who are learning Perek Yachid L'Yayim are learning the very last Perek, has two distinct sets of halachas. The first is the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. The second to the last thing that Rambam talks about is Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, the 7 laws of Noach. And the Rebbe said b'feidish, explicitly, the reason it comes right before Mashiach is because the last inyan you have to do in order for Mashiach to come is to be involved in the inyan of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, the 7 laws of Noach. Right? You know that in Chumash we have Taryag Mitzvahs. And they say that the last mitzvahs are the end of the whole Torah. Right? What's the 612th mitzvah? What's the 612th mitzvah? The 600, do you know this? You're Lubavitch, you know this. You just don't know that you know it. The 612th mitzvah is Hakel. How do I know this? That's how I know it, yeah? What's the 613th mitzvah? Mitzvahs Ksiva Sefer Teireh. Right? Va'ata Kisru Lochem Asashira Azeis. Hoya Lochem La'ed, according to the Rambam, goes on Mitzvahs Ksiva Sefer Teireh. And of course the Rebbe says, he brings from Sfarim, that these mitzvahs have to be reenacted as the last mitzvahs before the coming of Mashiach, which of course explains why the Rebbe had such a koch and Hakel. Nobody before the Rebbe spoke about Hakel. And Ve'ed, V'gam Zeik, the Rebbe made a huge mitzvah Sefer Teireh, Kol Ama Nimtza Kosov B'Sefer. It's a pasuk in the Nil. If you want to be saved, you have to have a letter in a Sefer Teireh, for children, or for Tzivos Hashem, or for adults. Ois in a Sefer Teireh, the Rebbe spoke about this inyan of having an Ois in a Sefer Teireh. It's the last mitzvah, and then it says in Sfarim, that because it's the last mitzvah, from here you go into Eretz Yisrael. So the same is true in Teireh Shabal Peh. Right? How did the Rambam write his Sefer? Rambam wrote his Sefer, Adam Kedi B'Teireh Shebeksav Tchila. Yachach Kedi B'Sefer Azeh. Ve'einei Tzarech L'Shum Sefer Acher B'Netayim. Right? The Rambam wrote such bold words. Right? Another person would say such gaivedika words. But the Rambam had Badem Ga'al. The Rambam was on that madrega. A person learns Teireh Shebeksav. You have to learn the whole Tanakh. To learn the Rambam, you have to know the whole Tanakh backwards and forwards to the Ois. Then you learn my Sefer Mishnah Teireh Rambam, and you don't have to learn anything else in between. And the Chazal, the Gedolei Yisrael, in the times of the Rambam, got very nervous. The Rambam was going to cancel the limud of Gemara, and they became very afraid. That's why they came out against the Rambam, because the Rambam wrote this. The Rambam wrote it because it's true, and the Gedei Yisrael are also true that you have to learn halacha. But just like in Chumash, the last mitzvah is the mitzvah right before you go into Eretz Yisrael. The same is true in Rambam. So the second to the last inyan in Rambam is the inyan of Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach. That there's a chiyuv on a yid to teach goyim. There's a chiyuv on a yid. There's a chiyuv on a yid to teach goyim, and even to force goyim. And the Rebbe said once, you don't have to necessarily force with a stick. You can force with the power of persuasion. That the goyim should be makabel upon themselves the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach. And it's not enough that the goyim are makabel upon themselves the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach. They have to be makabel the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach upon themselves. Kutzivsa meisha mipia gvura, that they come from Har Sinai. Even though the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach started with Adam Rishon, and they continue with neach. But for a goy to be on the highest level, chsidi yom ha'elam, whatever the case is, it's very important that they don't only keep the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach, but they do them because Hashem gave them. That's a chiyuv. A goy has a chayiv gama, do what Hashem gave them. But in order to be a chassid, it's not enough to be makayim the Sheva mitzvahs because Hashem gave them. He has to practice them because Hashem gave them at Har Sinai. And the Rambam writes that if a goy keeps all Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach, but he does them mitad hecher ha'seichel because they make sense to him, and not because the Eibishter said. So the Rambam's lashon is einei mechasidi umes ha'elam ve'einei mechachmeim. He is neither considered a chassid of umes ha'elam, and he's not even considered a chacham of umes ha'elam, because he's doing all the mitzvahs, but the mitzvahs are disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch. So on this Rambam, there's a Ksav Yad Teiman, there's another Girsa, which is considered more reliable. And I'm telling you every single word I shared today, I heard from the Rebbe with my own ears. Not the pshat I read it. I heard from the Rebbe. I grew up. This is my Bacharim years was Rambam. This is my Rebbe is Rambam. You know, somebody else's Rebbe is Rashi. My Rebbe is Rambam. That's when I grew up. I was a Bach in Yeshiva. That the Teiman have a different Girsa. That if a person keeps Sheva mitzvah the Hechra Seichel because it makes sense to him. Not because the Eibishter said, Einei mechasidei umes ha'elam, ela mechachmeim. Instead of with a vav, v'loi mechachmeim comes with an aleph, ela mechachmeim. He's not considered a chassid umes ha'elam, he's considered a chacham of umes ha'elam. He's a chacham and not a chassid. Einei mechasidei umes ha'elam, ela mechachmeim. From the wise men of umes ha'elam. Because a goy has to keep the Sheva mitzvahs because the Eibishter said, and on the highest madrege is to keep the Sheva mitzvahs because the Eibishter said that Har Sinai. The Rambam writes, a yid has no choyev to make a goy become a ger tzedek. No such chiyuv. But he has a chiyuv, if he could, if Yad Yisrael Takifa, if necessary, kvayochel, to force a goy to be mekayim Sheva mitzvahs, to do the 7 mitzvahs of Neach. And of course the Rebbe would always point out that even though they're called 7 mitzvahs, there are many, many more than 7. 7 are only the mitzvahs. Leisa said there's many, many more mitzvahs that a goy has. This is the second to the last series of halachas, and Rambam is the halachas of Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach. Then goes Hilchas Melech HaMashiach. Chapter 11 begins HaMelech HaMashiach Chassid Lamed. Such the person, right? We're Lubavitch, yeah. So what's the language? What's the lexicon? The language is Mashiach or Geula, or Geula or Mashiach. There's 2 ideas. There's Geula, and then there's Melech HaMashiach, who is the Goya. And according to Jewish law, the halacha is, you can't believe in one and the other, you have to believe in both. You have to believe that the Eibishter is going to redeem Yidden Ba'acharena, and that you have to believe that this that the Eibishter is going to Goyal Yisrael Ba'acharena, it's going to be through a Ben Adam. Melech HaMashiach is a Basar Vadam, he's a physical person who walks on this earth. And as the Rebbe explains it in all of his siches, he has 4 milas, 4 madreges. The first madrege is who he is personally, right? Yamid Melech HaBeis David, Hege B'Teira, Ve'ezek B'Mitzvahs, Kedavid David, If he Teira Shebeksav, Teira Shebal Peh. That's who he is personally. Then is his hashpa on Yidden. The Yaakov Kol Yisrael. The Yaakov. I have the Rambam with me. I don't have to guess. I can read it inside. The Rambam writes. The Yaakov Kol Yisrael Leilach Bo Lechazek Bitka. He's going to force all Yidden to go in the ways of the Torah and to strengthen all the things that are weak. That's number 2. His Hashpah on Yidden. And number 3 and 4 is Hashpah on Goyim. His first Hashpah on Goyim is called Vil Yilchei Milchemes Hashem. He has to fight the war of Hashem. Because you have to fight with Goyim and Goyishkeit. And the second thing is, as the Rebbe says in some of the Sikhs, where Mashiach doesn't have to be a Melech anymore, he becomes a Rav. He becomes a Rebbe. V'yisakei neseilam kula. He corrects the whole world. Lavet as Hashem b'yachad, to serve Hashem as one. Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk, Ki oz, when Mashiach comes, Epech alamim, I will transform all peoples. Safa berura, they should speak in a clear voice. Likre kulam b'shem adeshem, they should all call in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ula'avdei shchem echad, and to serve Him together as one lot, one unit will serve the Eivish, the whole world. So Mashiach is a person, a boss of Adam, who has 4 stages of identity, of how you identify him. If he has the first 3 stages, the first 2 stages, then he has Cheskas Mashiach. If he has the 3rd stage, then he's Mashiach Bavadai, and then after he's Mashiach Bavadai comes the last stage. So there's a set of halachas that talk about the person, Melech HaMashiach. And then of course there's Giyul, that Hashem redeems us, that the Eibusha takes us out of Golus. And then there's what's called Yemesa Mashiach. After Mashiach comes, there is the time of Mashiach. And the Rambam talks separately about Melech HaMashiach, the person Mashiach. And I guess you could say that included in that is the coming of Mashiach. And then separately, the Rambam talks about the Yemesa Mashiach. What happens after Mashiach comes? And of course, what does the Rambam say? The Rambam, in his opinion, in Halacha, says that when Mashiach comes, the Eibusha does not have to perform, Mashiach doesn't have to perform any Eisel Meifis, or Mishana Daramativ, Ba'aylam, and to make Nisim and Flies, or to make a Shini and Teva. Mashiach has no requirement to do any Eisel Meifis. Because the Rambam paskins, like the Shita and the Gemara, that says, Amru Chachamim, Ein Beinei Lemazeli Yemesa Mashiach, Ala Shibud Malchias Bovad. There is no difference between life before Mashiach comes and after Mashiach comes, except Shibud Malchus, that now we're subject to the influence of other nations, and after Mashiach comes, we will not be subject to the influence of other nations. But the Rambam paskins, the Mashiach doesn't have to do any miracles. So then the Rebbe brings in the Sikhs that the Rambam in Igeres Teimah, in Igeres Ches HaMeis, the Rambam, I looked it up this morning. I was learning today the last Perek of Rambam, so I looked this Rambam up. The Rambam in Igeres Ches HaMeis writes that I wrote to the Sefer Mishnah Torah, Barakel Moshel Umlitza, all the descriptions in Tanakh, including what says in the Chumash, like in the Rambam, Vishbati Chayrom and Haaretz, that it's all a moshel, it's all allegory. In other words, I wrote in my Sefer Mishnah Torah that when Hashem comes, Mashiach comes, animals are still going to be animals. Predators, there's not going to be a change in the nature of the world, like it says in Tanakh. And that all of the allusions to animals stopping to be predators, this goes on the Rishei Umois Ha'olam, it goes on this evil Goyim, that they're going to be Yoishim, V'hashket, V'vetachim Yisrael, that they're going to stop being evil, and they're going to sit side by side with Yidden in peace. So the Rambam explained in Mishnah Torah that even though the Tanakh has all of these allusions to great miracles that are going to happen when Mashiach comes, the Rambam says it's all allegory. So the Rambam writes that this that I wrote in Mishnah Torah is Einei Hechleti. It's not certain. I said that the psukim are not literal, they're only a mashal. I'm not sure, maybe they are literal. But I had a suffix, I wasn't sure. Ravid says for sure it's going to be miraculous. But the Rambam says I didn't know if it's going to be miraculous. So that's why I wrote there's not going to be any miracles, because it's not negeya in understanding the halacha of Mashiach. There's the din of Mashiach, there's the mitzvah of Mashiach, there's halacha of Mashiach, and then there's other things. The din and mitzvah and halacha of Mashiach is that he's a king, melech. The mashal for a king who could be Mashiach is Bar Kochva. And Bar Kochva did not perform miracles. He was a frum man, a tough general, a very tough general. I have an uncle who's an historian who told me he's seen Bar Kochva's letters. He sounds as brutal as all of the Roman generals of his time. He was a tough man. But he was a frum yid, a shemet heidu mitzvah. And on some level he was meshuchna to the Gedel Yisrael. Rabbi Akiva was Neisei Kelev, Sheben Kuziva HaMelech. Rabbi Akiva carried his kelim because Rabbi Akiva showed him respect. He considered him a melech. And I'm assuming that Bar Kokhba had a mutual respect, at least a mutual respect, for Rabbi Akiva. So Mashiach's halacha doesn't require miracles. Mashiach's halacha is, as the Rebbe teaches us in all the Vesiches, that when Mashiach comes, the whole world follows the Eibush Torah. Yidden keep all the Tayag mitzvahs that they have to keep. All in Eretz Yisrael, with, as the Rebbe says, that Eretz Yisrael, the expanded, the full borders of Eretz Yisrael, keeping all Tayag mitzvahs, all 630 Torah mitzvahs, and Lahavdil Goyim live all over the world, and their Mekayim Sheva mitzvahs diduhu, they keep their mitzvahs also b'shleim. So the Rebbe has a Sikha, where the Rebbe says, imagine a world where no miracles happen, and yet all of mankind is living the way the Eibush expects human beings to live. Can there be a greater miracle than this? That no miracle happens. No miracle happens. The trees outside still don't bear fruit. If the trees in Brooklyn, at least the park, would bear fruit, it would be a couple of weeks a year that the streets would stink. Yeah, you go to places where you have fruit trees on the sidewalks, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, when you have trees that grow fruit, and the fruit are not picked, and then they fall, and then they collect, and they have non stinking. But this is a problem in Gezogavaren. The Rebbe says, if Mashiach comes and no miracles happen, I see the Allah Yisrael are not Meitzi Pedis or Tayin Pedis, and all people are living as the Eibush wants them to live, can there be a greater miracle than this? And of course, the end of it is, says the Rebbe, the end of it is, there's two things. Number one, the daily Yisrael didn't want Mashiach not to punish the Goyim, and not to have a reward, and not to have all the Gashmis Ketub, but rather there should be Asik and Teru mitzvahs, Kedei, Sheyisku, Lechaye, Ha'elam, Haba, Kamei, Shabiyanu, Behilchas, Tshuva. Number one, the first reason for Mashiach is that people are going to have a chance. And of course this includes also, according to the Shittas Rambam, the Inyan of Tchiyas HaMeis, that those who lived will live, Kamim L'Tchiyah, they will live again, and they will be able to be Mekayim, Tayag mitzvahs under peaceful conditions, in a safe and healthy and secure and rich way. So they should be able to do Torah mitzvahs maximally. Kedei sheyizku l'chaya ha'el mabad, they should marry the Elam Haba. That's the first inyan of Mashiach. And then there's a second inyan of Mashiach, a higher inyan of Mashiach, even higher than the inyan of Elam Haba. Ube'esei azman, at that time, la yesham, la rav, la malchama, la kinna, la tachlis, there's not going to be any hunger, and any war, and any jealousy, and any competition. Because good is going to be available a lot. How much is a lot? All those things that give people pleasure is going to be as available as dust. So what's there to compete about? It's just there for free. Therefore, no. And there will be nothing to preoccupy all of mankind on this earth, only to know the Eibush alone. Human beings, what's going to be their passion? What's going to be in the newspaper? What's going to be in the daily column, or the weekly column, or the monthly column, or the quarterly column, or the by twice a year or once a year? Yediyas Hashem, the meaning of knowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, because you're not going to be living in a world where the Goyim Lahavu are busy with Yediyas Hashem, and everybody is affected by his environment. Ha'adam hu Medini. When a Yid lives in a world where the Goyim are busy with Yediyas Hashem, it allows Yidden to be even higher. They're going to be incredibly wise. And they're going to know all those things that are secrets. They're going to come to a reaching and understanding of their Creator to the maximum capacity of a person. Shenemra, that says in the Pasuk, Kimala Odes Deas Adeshem, Kimala Odes Deas Havaya Kamam Yamachasim. Umal, Kimala Odes Deas Hashem Kamam, the world. The world is going to be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, as water covers the sea. What's the lashon in the pasuk? Ki mala haaretz de'as Hashem kamayim v'chasim. I mean, the Rebbe, when he made the first time the Siyum, the Rebbe made it from this Rambam, and then he read Nishlamu hilches malachim v'achub. The Rebbe said by the Sikha Tashmem Hey, 35 years ago, Yidal Nissen. Nishlamu halachas eilu v'achiber kulei Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'elim prati b'kolei tam v'nishlam Shevach le'el be'er el. The Rebbe read all the words at the end, whether they're from the Rambam or they're from the printer, but the Rebbe read all of the words. The Mashiach's coming is by Yedias Hashem. Yedias Hashem is language of Rambam. How do you say Yedias Hashem in Lashon Chassidus? Gilui Elokus. Now they sound very different. Yedias Hashem sounds Seichel-dik, and Gilui Elokus sounds Ein Sof-dik, but they're really the same thing. So the Rebbe says this is how the Rambam goes. In the beginning, you have to start with Yedias Hashem. But in the beginning, you have Yedias Hashem a drop. A drop in an ocean, a drop in a bucket. And then you journey through the entire Sefer Mishnah Torah Rambam until you get to the last page, and there it says, Mala Odes Deas Havaya Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim. That the entire world is covered with the sea, the water of Yedi. All there is das, like the Rambam writes that Mei Hadas HaTorah, the whole world is immersed in the waters of knowledge that are pure. But then the Rebbe continues. Uba Hakdome. Just 5 more minutes, I'm going to let you go. Rabbi, my Mamalamakim has apparently not showed up, and I don't have a clock, so ich gehe. I know it's fine, but I wish I knew what time it was. I'm using my clock as the recorder does. 5 more minutes. The Rebbe says, when you say Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim, there's 2 madregas. There's a lower madrega and there's a higher madrega. You live in the ocean, so you become a part of the ocean, right? That's the halach. What lives in the sea is considered part of the sea. Physically, when you look at the water, you don't see the fish beneath the surface, you see only water. So you say that the fish's whole materials, they're in their makar achayas, they're the source of life, which is the sea itself. And there's even halacha nigla, as you know, that hayotzim and hayam is not a chatzitza. A fish bone is not a chatzitza. Right? If a person is toiveling and a fish rubs up against his leg, whether they should toivel again or not, but there's an idea that if something lives in the water, he's a part of the sea. So everything that lives in the water becomes water. In other words, a person is so busy with Yedias Hashem that there is no them, there is just Yedias Hashem. Says the Rebbe, that's the lower level. What's the higher level? The higher level is Takamal Ardes Hashem Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim. And even though you're completely covered by the water, in other words, your whole reality is Yedias Hashem, you don't lose your self-identity. As the Rebbe says, there is still fish in the sea. And the fish in the sea are, on one hand, entirely water, but on the other hand, there are fish in the sea. So the Rebbe says, in Yedias Hashem, there's a lower level, where because of Yedias Hashem, you lose yourself. And the higher level is that even though there's such a level of Yedias Hashem, you still have a retention of self. Why is that negeya? It's negeya for a very simple reason. Because after you finish Rambam, you have to start Rambam a second time. Right? The Rambam begins, Yeseda, is Vamuda Chochmas, Leida, Shesh HaMatzah Rishon, V'Mamtzeh Kol Nimtza, Chol HaNatzoy Mishamayim, V'Arz Mashabeim, Mitzal Mitzah Matzah. That everything that exists comes because of the Eibishter. If you became so saturated with Yedias Hashem that there's no you, how can you start Rambam again? But you're in the higher Madrege, start Rambam again. The beginning of Rambam is Leida. So therefore there's a higher Madrege, a fish in the sea with all of the milas that involves, but at the same time there's a self-identity that has this Yediyah. And therefore after being in the Madrege of Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim, there's even a higher level. How that Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim expressed itself in starting the Rambam over from the beginning again. And the beginning of the second Rambam, that's what the Rebbe says, the beginning of the second Rambam is higher than the end of the first Rambam. That's how the Rebbe would say this in the Hadronim. In the years that the Rebbe made Hadronim al Rambam, that's what the Rebbe would say. Anyway, this is I made a Siyum. I wanted to make a Siyum in Rambam, and I made a Siyum in Rambam. And the Macha Siyum zum Golus, Yehovcho Yom HaMeilu L'Sosna V'Lesimcha V'Hemel V'Ashol Ma'evu. Mashiach soll sein uns negeya. Mashiach should be something that matters to us. We need and we want and we desperately need. And man soll solcher sein, sich sehen mit den Rebben, sehen mit Mashiach Tzidkenu, b'tei Benira v'Anigla. And soll sein a full Gula for Lonu, L'chol Yisrael, L'chol Eilam Kulei. Last night there was a Zoom that I participated in, and one of the speakers was Eli Turin. He said something very interesting. It's a breitkeit to say such a thing. I'm repeating his words. I hadn't have enough time to think it through, to think whether I agree with him, and then I have to think through whether I have an opinion about such a question. But he said, he's involved in Shabbat Mitzvahs B'nei. That's one of the things he does. So he said the following. He says, you know, by a Yid we know that we say, we always judge a Yid l'toif. We always find a positive spin on a Yid. Yeah? He's a Rasha, but. You know? He made a mistake, but. Because every Yid is a chelik elakam ma'al mamish. What about Goyim? Comes to Goyim, every once in a while you meet a good one, you know? But the rest of them... So he says that Rebbe Toch gesagt that we're holding in the time of Lakuf Kol Ba'ayelo, to force the whole world to keep Shabbat Mitzvahs Didhu. So that he said, this was his word, that perhaps you could say that you have to have the same look on a Goy. It's not the same. The reason it's not the same is because by a Yid is a Neshama. By a Goy there's no Neshama, there's only a Seichel. But there's an Eibishter that directs the world. And even though you can't say by a Goy that he has a chelik elakam ma'al mamish, so he's good no matter what, but you could say because the Eibishter gave him a seichel, if you'll teach him, he'll learn. If you give him direction, he'll go in the same direction. This was his word. That just like we traditionally, when we look at a Yid, we always try to find how a Yid is good. Look at a Goy, he has to earn it. He's saying that now you have to look at Goyim the same way, or in a similar way. That you have to say about a Goy, that he's also on some level inherently good. You should know there's a sikh from the Rebbe about this, where the Rebbe spoke about Avraham Avinu. That Avraham Avinu used to force Goyim to thank Hashem, or he would charge them a lot of money. So the Rebbe said, by a Yid, to force him to do a mitzvah, you could say, right? Everybody knows that, the Rambam. But by a Goy, you can't say, it doesn't have a neshama. So the Rebbe said that even though a Goy doesn't have a neshama, so you can't say because this is what he wants be'etzem. But if I understood the sikh is not fresh in my mind. Every person has an inherent sense intellectually of right and wrong, and he wants to do right. So even though you're not going to say it's coming from his neshama, but you would say that it comes from his sikh. Okay, we want Mashiach now. Good morning. I'll see you